So in this video, we're going to go through your first end-to-end Finance Data Analyst project. We're going to cover topics such as how to structure your code, how to pull in securities data using a Yahoo Finance package into a data frame in Python, how to clean the data, and then how to store that data set into a SQLite database, and then ultimately connect to that data using Excel and create a simple chart. If you're new to the channel, hi, my name's Arya. I've been working in the finance space for over 16 years. I've built, trained, and led multiple data teams across major investment firms. This channel is basically to try and guide you on your journey to being a data analyst in the finance space based on my practical experiences. I'm not teaching technical programming in this video. It's more of a practical focus on getting the job done in a non-IT tech environment. This video is not designed to be a deep dive, so we're not going through all the debugging components. I've already done the research just to make it easier for you to be introduced to the scene of programming. In upcoming videos, I will actually be doing a deep dive in how we will solve and address any issues that pop up, so you become familiar with the end-to-end process in programming. Make sure you watch the previous video if you haven't already gone through that to set up your development environment so you can follow on. Go ahead, I'll wait right here for you. So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to open up VS Code. We're going to create the file, and we're actually going to map out the structure of our code. So you can do either Control N, or you can right click a new file. So we're just going to do Control N. We are going to save that. It's going to open up the folder here. So we're going to call this first FDD project. Enter. We are going to use dividers. So they're kind of like they create different cells. And the way you do that is with the pound key, hash, and then two percentage signs. So you can see it's create this divider here. What I'd like to do, I'd like to group each one. So maybe packages to import, copy that. And then actually I'd like to just also insert some lines just to make it visually easier to separate. Okay, and then we can just copy this. Go down. The next thing we might want to add, I like to have like global variables. So global variables. Another one we can have is my functions. Then we can have getting the data. So get the module we're going to call is called Yahoo Finance. I'm going to call YF data. Then we need to clean the data, clean YF data, and then we're going to insert it into the database. Okay, so insert data into DB and save. The next thing we're going to do is actually import the data set. So we're going to use a Python package called Yahoo Finance. It's an unofficial wrapper that pulls in data from the Yahoo Finance website and API. So if you just Google Yahoo Finance, you kind of bring up to this page here. I've already done a search for the security that we're going to look at. So it's an ETF. It's called the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF, or VOO. And we're basically going to pull in all the historical data via Python. The package, so if you do a search for Yahoo Finance, it is this GitHub repo here. So Yahoo Finance, it will bring up this GitHub repo. I've used it quite a bit. And the official documentation, if you scroll down to this website here, will bring you to here. To install the package via the terminal that we have within VS Code. At the bottom here, if you select this terminal button here, if you can't see it, you can see the shortcut on Windows at least, hit Control and the apostrophe. So we're going to do pip install Yahoo Finance and hit enter. Now, if you installed the Python package correctly, i.e. the Python language correctly, and we know all those steps that we set to have it in the pathway, this should work. If you do get an error, it's likely because the installation process was incorrect or you did it in the incorrect order. So I would suggest you can type in your comments below. I can try and help out, or I would recommend just starting from the beginning, uninstall everything, and referring back to the previous installation video and following in the steps outlined. Okay, that's the installation process for Yahoo Finance now done. There are two ways we can begin to extract the information from Yahoo Finance. So the first is we can look at the documentation from the Yahoo Finance repo. So we can look at this documentation here. Or the other option is we can use Codeium to help us get started. In our case, we're going to use Codeium and supplement it with the documentation when we run into issues. but it's important to never run any code that you're not sure of, especially that's been generated by AI or any GPT, unless you actually know how it works and you understand how it's being used and what it can do. Trust but verify. Now there could be the programming purists might say you should recite everything from scratch, but I'm showing you how we would do this in the real world and what you should be spending your time and energy on. No one cares if you can code from memory, they just care about the output. Also, just a quick note, I'm not sponsored or affiliated with Codeium. I'm just using any free tools that are available that I've tested myself that can be easily accessible by you as well. So back in our VS Code screen, we can minimize this bit. We're going to click on this button here so to bring up Codeium, and I like to pop this out into a new window, and we could start a new conversation rather. So within Codeium, I'm going to ask it to essentially generate a function that specifically references the core sections within the Yahoo Finance package. We are going to type using yfinance.ticker.history. And I've looked at the documentation, so that's why I'm able to show this. But as I mentioned previously, like this is a very simplified training session just to make it easy for you to get started. So using yfinance.ticker.history, create a function that will return the data as a data frame based on receiving the parameters of a ticker code. And we want the start date and end date. Okay, so we're going to feed it these tickers, or the ticker, the start date, and the end date, which is incorrect. And we want to, so there's auto adjustments typically enabled. So we're going to disable auto adjustments. This is for any like stock splits or dividends. Use a try and accept clause. So this is just like better programming methodology in case there's errors. And we wanted to provide comments for the function and each of the steps. Okay, so I'm gonna hit enter. See, it's generating the code for us. So the first thing I'm gonna do, these packages, we can now copy those and put them into under our packages section. Put that there. Then we're going to copy the function and put that on the functions. And then I'm going to use this example that it's given. So let's just copy this for now and put that under get YF data. Now, I'll give a quick explanation of what it's trying to do here. This is the function. It's expecting a ticker code, a start date, and an end date to be sent to it. So this is the explanation. And it's going to return back a data frame with the information that it's gathered. It's calling the package and we input it to Yahoo Finance. It's setting the ticker to be that ticker code that we're going to pass to it. And then it's going to execute its own function to call the history, whereby the start date for that ticker is what we feed it. The end date is also what we feed it. And I've disabled this auto adjustment again. So it tells you here it's to prevent adjustments for stock splits and dividends, etc. And it's going to return that data frame back to us. Okay. And this is us doing an error handling. If we run this as is, yeah, it's perfectly fine to work as well. But what we're going to do is we're going to use those global variables, make it a bit more dynamic. So if we scroll up a bit under global variables, we want something that's for the ticker. I like to use str for string, dt for date, int for integers, lng for long values. Just variable naming convention is very important so that other people can easily debug. Okay, so in this case, I want to do the ticker. So ticker equals VOO. Then we're going to add the date. So dt start date. We're going to start off 2020 and dt end date. And we're also going to do it for the year. So December 31st. And now we have our global variables. Now we need to make the changes to this function that we're going to be passing in. So if we just take in, copy the ticker, replace this with the ticker, you can even start typing to replace the start date. So this was dt start date, and then this one is dt, and you can see it comes up in your list of variables. So end date and just have a cross. Okay. It's very important you have this in the same order that you've set up the function. Okay, so we've got ticker, start date, end date. So we've got ticker, start date, end date. I'm going to change this data frame variable to be more recognizable for me. So I'm going to be df Yahoo Finance prices. equals that. Okay. Now, what we can do, we can run the code. So we're going to hit Control S, and in this top corner here, we can run the entire file in interactive window. So we're going to click on that. So it's going to initiate a Python kernel, and it's going to run each of these different cells one by one. So each of these cells, so run cell, it's cycling through those. Done. And if we click on the Jupyter, so you can see we've got checks all around, all good. So we're going to click on the Jupyter tab, and we're going to see the variables that we've assigned. And we can see this df price. So that's a data frame. If we click on that, we can see the structure of the file. So we're going to just pop this in open. So you can see we've got the date, which is our index here. We've got these different columns. So this is the open price, the high price, low, close, adjusted close, volume, dividend, stock splits, and capital gains. Okay, so this is a great way for us to just look at the data that we're working with and the columns that we have. So in this next section, we're going to clean some of the data. So I'm going to close this, minimize this again. So if we go down to our clean YF data section, there are a couple of things we want to do. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do actually is we want to load the information for the current data frame. Okay, now I've shown you how we use the chat functionality for Codeium. The next thing I want to show you is actually how we can generate code from within the editor itself by typing some commentary. So under this clean YF data section, we are going to open up with a comment. So we want to say print information about the data frame. So you can see it's already popping up. If we hit tab and tab again, it's going to do this function here. So print df YF price.info. If we select that and hit shift enter, you can see it's bringing up all the information that we need. We are going to use this to help us with the next section, which is we want to delete or drop columns that we're not going to need for our future purposes. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is, again, write a comment, drop non-essential columns from the data frame, and in brackets I'm gonna put so we don't want the close price because we want to adjust the close. We don't want volume. We can actually go ahead. Dividends, stock splits. So we don't want close. We don't want volume, stock, dividends, stock splits, and capital gains. So if we go capital gains, I'm going to bring this over to the side a bit more. Okay, and close bracket. And if we tab, so you can see here it's written the code for us. So it's going to drop all these columns that we've written in the comments. This axis equals 1 means that it's for the columns. I think if axis equals 0 is for the rows. And I can see there's an error issue here, so I think that looks like there's just an extra parentheses. So what we can do now, I like to keep the original data frame, okay, and I'm going to rename this cleaned because it's a copy of the data frame. Oh, there you go. It's as if it can hear me. So we're gonna do a tab on there, and now what it's going to do is create a new data frame as a copy of this existing data frame. Okay, so if we now run this, we have a new data frame here. So if I click on that, but it will be without the extra columns. So you can see we now just have the date, open, high, low, and adjusted close. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is change the format of this date index. So we want it to be just year, month, and date. So we're going to go back to our editor down here. I'm going to be a bit more specific now because it's to do with an index column. So we need to say change the format of the index date column using there's a function called string to time, so string f time, so trf time to y, let's see what it gives us. And it's going to give us something like this. So I'm going to tab and tab. Now, be aware you may get various, a different result to what I'm getting on my side, but you can either ask it to regenerate, or for the sake of this demonstration, just type in, replicate what I have now. Again, in future videos, we are going to do proper in-depth debugging and walkthrough sessions. But for the purpose of this video, I'm just trying to get you up and running, just so you don't have to like worry too much about why things aren't working for this first run. Okay, so what it's going to do, it's going to clean up that index column, and we're going to set it to a cleaner year, month, and date. So if we just run this, Shift Enter, it's run, great. Let's open up our Data Wrangler again, and we can see it's now in a very clean format. The next bit we're going to do is we're going to actually convert this index column into a regular column, just so we can easily manipulate it and access it later on. So there's that. Go back to editor. We're going to say convert the index column to a standard column, and it's going to tell us that it's going to do a so this is just resetting the index, and it's going to replace it with a standard index. So if we go, so it's like 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. So if I Shift Enter, load up our data frame, we can see we now have a regular index here, and our date column is now a regular date column now. The next thing we're going to do is rename the columns, just to make it easier for us to work with and also insert into our database. So if we go back to the editor, we are going to say rename the columns, and it's in the format of current and then to be. Let's see what it gives us. Okay, great. So here we're asking it to rename what the current column is called and what we want it to be. So in this case here, let's do a test. So if we test it with, so we want to change the date. I want to change date to be price date. And if we run that, if we go here, you can see it's now called price date. So what we're going to do, we're going to do similar thing for all the other items. So there you go. I love this. So if we tab that, we're going to obviously review it. So we want to change open to price open. We're going to change high to price high, and then low to price low. We don't have a close, so we just need to remove that one. So again, this is why you need to trust by verify. So it's not applicable. We do have an adjusted close, so we can see here. I want to change that to price. I want to make that one word, adjusted close. And we removed all the others, so we can delete this one as well. So delete price volume, delete all that. And we're going to select that whole row, Shift Enter, and come back to our data frame. And we can see it's all been updated. So we've got price date, price open, price high, price low, and price adjusted close. So now that that's done, we want to insert a column that shows us what this data is for. Okay, so there's no way for us in this data set to understand which ticker this is associated with. So if we close this and again go back to our editor, we are going to add some commentary. Insert a new column called ticker. Oh, look at that, ticker, with the value of the ticker code. So we actually want to change that with the value of string ticker. There you go. Enter, tab, and then tab again. Now what it should do, it should insert this new column within our data frame. So if we run that, Shift Enter, and if we go here, we should be able to see that new column has been inserted and it has VOO as the value. What I want to do now is I actually want to reorder some of the column names. Okay, so again, this is just being OCD, but also just from a data manipulation perspective, it makes sense. So we are going to write another comment, reorder the columns, tab, and we can tab again because we're going to use this. So I want to put the date first. Okay, so I'm going to remove that one. Price, date, then I want the ticker. Then I'm happy for it to be open, high, low, and close. So if we run this, shift enter, we now see price, ticker, open, high, low, close. So we just really just swapped around the price, date, and ticker. Now that we've cleaned the data, it's now ready to be inserted into our database. When you're designing any database, it's good to know like how it's going to be used, but also the data that you're working with. Okay, so in this case, again, we've installed SQLite, so we're going to be using that to store our information. Now, what we have done through our process in cleaning the data, we've actually structured the data set that we're going to load within the data frame to match how we want to be stored. Okay, so we don't need to do any extra manipulation on once it's loaded. So we've actually front loaded the work. So we've cleaned the data as much as possible before we start to load the data within the database, and this will save you a lot of headaches down the line. Now, in terms of the data types, so SQL is very basic in terms of the number of data types that he has. So it only has 4 data types, which is easy for us. For our testing purposes, it's really useful, very handy. I'll just quickly bring that up as I'm speaking. So it's very useful, very handy, but it means that it's probably not best for a production environment. But for our testing purposes, it's fine. So you can see here we have a null, integer, real, and text. Well, I guess blob is also a potential use case as well. Okay, so that's it. Whereas, I mean, if you go to SQL Server or any of the main databases, they have so many that you can use. But in our case, SQLite will do the job. The prompt that we're going to use is going to be slightly lengthy, but we're going to break it down and we're going to walk through how we can do this. So if we now switch back to the chat, I'm going to make this slightly bigger. Okay, so we want to create a function that will take a data frame as a parameter and insert into a table, or insert data into a table. Okay. Provide comments for the function and each of the steps. Okay, I'm going to hold Shift Enter because I want to split it out. We're going to first check to see whether the SQLite database exists. If not, we want to create one. So check if there is a SQLite database called, we're just going to call it DBFDD securities. If there isn't, create one. Then we're going to create the table. Okay, so this is now where we're going to be structuring the table. So we're going to then check if there is a table called T_price, T for table. If there isn't one, then create one with the following fields and data types. Now, what we are going to do here, it is going to mimic essentially what we have already created. So we're going to say price date, ticker, price open, price high, price low, and price adjusted close. All these are numbers, so they are real. And then the way that SQLite stores date is actually as a text. So then we're going to have 2 texts and 1, 2, 3, 4 reels. Okay, so we'll bring our prompt back. So the first one is going to be price date as text, then ticker as text, then price open as real, price high as real, price I think low as real, and then price AG adjusted close as real. Okay, so it's going to create the table if it doesn't exist. Okay, then insert the data from the data frame into this table, matching the columns from the data frame to those in the table. So what this is saying is our data frame has the exact same column naming convention that's within this table. So it should be an easy one-to-one insert. And we want to do, the try except clause. So use a try except clause and add checks to see if the data frame is empty before continuing. Return the result if data loaded or if an error occurred. Now, if we left this like this, it will work perfectly fine. But what will happen if you rerun the code again? Okay, we haven't added anything in here to say on how to address any duplicates. Okay, so we will add a section to add a check to not duplicate any data if it already exists based on the combination of price date and ticker. If it exists, then overwrite the content in the table. So with this command here, it should create what's called a key. So a key is basically just a way of uniquely identifying the data, so it makes it easy for us to make sure there's no duplicates. So it would always do a match on price and ticker, price date and ticker, and ensure there's no duplicates with a combination of these two fields. Now we're going to hit enter. Okay, so it's created all this code for us. So the first thing we're going to do, see if there are any new packages. So I can see this is a new package. So I'm going to copy that and we're going to put that in our packages sections. So I'm going to close this. New package. And we're going to import our function. And we're also going to use the example down below. Okay. So we're just going to do a quick walkthrough on what the function is doing. So the function is going to accept a data frame and it's going to return a result whether it's loaded successfully or if an error has occurred. The first thing it's going to check is whether that data frame is empty and return an error if it is, or continue if it's not. We are establishing a connection to that SQLite database. So if this file doesn't exist, it will create it. That's one of the benefits of SQLite. This just sets the cursor on where it should begin. It's processing this section. So this is a SQL command. It's basically it's finding out whether or not that specific table, tprice, exists. Okay. If it doesn't, then it's going to create it. This is the table. These are the columns that we set and the data types. So you have the price date, ticker, price open, high, low, just a close. And this is that primary key that we spoke about. So it's a combination of price date and ticker. Then we're going to just change this. So we obviously don't have a df. We've called ours the clean data frame. So we're going to put that into here, replace it. We can leave the result as is. Now to test it, we are going to, so we're going to learn about this clear all and restart. So clear all clears all the contents here. We're going to click on that one and restart. restarts everything within our instance. So this is quite handy when you want like a clean start. So I'm gonna click on restart and restart. Okay, we are good to go. The next thing I'm going to do is we're going to test it. So I'm going to first hit Control S to save. I'm also going to open up this File Explorer path because we're going to see if our database gets created. So we're going to run everything. Yeah. Look at that. So you see, it ran through all the code and it created this new database file. Now that we've created our database file here, what we're going to do is we're going to open up DB so we can now view it, see what it looks like, and look at the content. So if you launch DB and then if you click on here, so this top right, new database connection, we are going to select SQLite. Click on that. Next. We're going to leave these as default. So we're going to find the path. So click on open. Navigate to where you stored the script. So PyScripts, db ftd securities.db. So we're going to click on open and leave everything else as default again. So finish. We are going to close these tabs that we have from our installation. So if we double click on that, expand tables, we can see T price, double click on that. And look at that. All of the contents from our Yahoo Finance download into the data frame. And now it's been inserted into your very first database. Now that we have the data within a database, the next thing we're going to do is displaying that information within Excel. Now, in order for us to connect to the environment, we need to actually download something called an ODBC driver. So SQLite doesn't have an official one, and it's not officially supported out of the box by Microsoft Excel. So we just need to go and download a specific package for that. To download the package, if we just open up our web browser and then just do a type for SQLite, yeah, that's what I want, ODBC driver. And if we click on this one here, so this is kind of like the unofficial driver that's supported. If you are in an enterprise environment, it's unlikely that you will be permitted to install it by your IT department, but you can always ask the question. But again, ideally you have something available to you, or your tech teams will be able to support you in that. So what you're going to do is scroll down. I'm on Windows and I have a 64-bit, so I'm going to download this package. I'm going to install that. Everything's default. Yes, we don't need the SQL 2 drivers because we're running SQL 3. You can see that here. Finish. Now, once that's done, you can verify that it's been installed. So if you go to your start, type in ODBC, you should see ODBC data sources. So we're going to launch the 64-bit variant. And if you go to drivers, you should be able to now see SQLite 3 ODBC drivers. This means that we're good to go. So now that we've got the ODBC settings configured, we are going to establish a connection within Excel. So launch Excel, blank workbook, click on this data ribbon here. We are going to do get data. We're going to select from other sources, and we're going to go down here where it says from ODBC. We're going to click on that. So you're going to select then SQLite 3 from the dropdown, and we're going to click on advanced options. This next bit, we're going to have to define the connection strings. So this just defines where the source database is stored, and also the drivers that need to be used when connecting to that database. Now, I use a handy website called connection strings. So if you just do a search for connection strings, then locate SQLite, it would take you to this section here. We do a search for ODBC driver connection strings, and all we need is just this first bit. So we want the driver and then also the database location. So I'm just going to copy these two and put them here. Then I obviously need to replace where my database is stored. So I'm going to find that. I'm going to go to where it's stored, documents, PyScript in here. I'm going to right click and copy as path. And I'm going to replace this and remove the quotation marks. And we're going to hit OK. Now it's going to ask me to for username and password. In my case, I don't need to set a password, but I'm just going to type in my username. So it is FDD and connect. And once we have that, we now see the list of tables that it has found in that database. So if we click on T price, you can see that it has all that data that we have already stored within the database. So we can click that and we're going to hit load. And what this now will do is it's going to pull in all the data that we have stored in our table and into Excel. Now that we have the data within Excel, we're just going to create a very simple line chart. So we're going to select columns price date and price adjusted close, go to insert, and on the charts, there will be a line chart. Click on that, and that's it. We have our line chart now. Now we can see this data set and it goes to 2020. Now, what if we want to actually expand that and take it to, say, to the end of 2023? So if we go back to our VS Code instance, back to our global variables, we're going to change the date here to 2023. We are going to run everything, run current file. Okay, that's done. Now, if we go back to Excel, and if we click on right click and then hit refresh, you can see it's now gone up to 2023. And that's it. So just a quick video recap. So we learned how to structure your code, how to perform a pip install using the terminal within VS Code, how to input securities data using Yahoo Finance into a data frame, and then how to manipulate that data frame and clean the data set that's within it, how to load the data into SQLite Database, how to connect that database via Excel and create a chart, and then how to refresh that data. Let me know what you thought about the video structure. I'm going to be trying different types of formats, long format and short format. But if you have any preference or any ideas on topics that you want me to dive into deeper, please let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. If you found this video useful, I'd really appreciate it if you gave it a like and consider subscribing to the channel to keep up to date with any future video releases. Thank you.